So last week we had talked about the life of Prophet Zarathustra, and during that Cyrus sir had mentioned to us that Prophet Zarathustra went to the court of which king in Iran? Come on, type out fast.
Quick answers. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oopsie. I think network is slow probably. Kerman, you want to give out the answer regardless?
Okay. So it was during the rule of King Gustas or King Vistas as we call it, both ways. The Prophet Zarathustra arrived in his court with a burning fire in his hand, and there he started propagating his religion, because at that point of time you can say the system or the norm of the day was, if the king accepted a new religion, it was his duty to spread that religion to his subjects, and subjects automatically became the part of that religion. This was not Zoroastrianism. Was not a new religion by itself, because as I said earlier in Jashamiya Vange Mazda, we say Mazda Esto Ummi, Mazda Esto Zarathustra. So we are the follower of Mazda Esto Zarathustra religion. What Zarathustra did was that Mazda Esto religion already existed since the Peshadian times. But what Zarathustra added to it, the value addition which Zarathustra made in current terms, if I have to say, the value addition or the improve, you can say some kind of reforms which Zarathustra had brought at that point of time, and that is why it is known as Mazdaistic Zarathustra religion. Okay, so but unfortunately there was also one thing, that King Gustaspur is the last king of the Kayanian dynasty, the last powerful king to be said of the Kayanian dynasty. So today we will see how Kayanian dynasty had a fall. See, it's always that every dynasty, if you read in history, has some place where they are on the epitome of their power. They basically, if you say in the language of Marvels, they're indestructible or untouchables. But with the passage of time, it happens that leadership fails somewhere, and slowly, gradually, he is the cause of the decline for that power. And ultimately, always remember that we all are humans, and to err is human, it's always said. So keeping that in mind, never be judgmental about the characters which we learn in history, but history basically teaches us from their life what mistakes we should not be doing, and that is what even Shahnameh teaches us when we are reading Shahnameh. So I will start with my PPT.
So this is not a history class, just FYI. This is more of a storytelling class where we gain something, some moral out of it for the kids, right?
Right.
Okay.
So I hope you enjoy this today's session. So can I minimize this viewer screen?
As in the speaker screen, you mean?
Yes, yes.
Better?
Yeah, better. Thank you.
Please disable annotations.
Okay. Just give me a moment.
Thank you, Jehan, for reminding us to do that.
Sure. Disable annotation from others. Okay, it's done. So this story is all about do we realize what I was saying? This story is all about the hunger for. Okay. Yes, Shahrazad, you're saying something?
The story is about tug of war?
No, it's about hunger for power. The throne he always symbolizes the position of power.
Okay.
And if you see around, there are two people who are trying to pull the throne towards their side. So the today's story is about how hunger for power can lead to fall of the strongest and the best of the rulers. This is King Loraspa. King Loraspa was appointed the next king by Kaikhoshru, and King Loraspa was blessed by Zarathustra, prophet Zarathustra, that he will be the Shah of Mitra. Mitra means he will be the holder of the prayers. And he was a very noble king. He spent most of his time praying, but that does not mean he was not looking after his subjects. He was looking after his subjects well. And he had his young son, Shah Prince Gustas or Prince Vistas. So the story begins with when Prince Gustas grows up. He wants the throne. He says he asks his father that you promise me you will appoint me as the next king. His father says yes, you will be the next king. But he also had a brother Zarir who was also equally powerful and equally capable of becoming the next ruler. So King Prince Gustavus was a bit kind of insecure. He felt insecure that if the father does not keep his promise, if he would appoint my brother Zarir, where will I go? And out of this rage, he left Iran. He was angry with his father. He did not trust his father. So he had a quarrel with his father and he left Iran. And he went towards Rome at that point of time. Now, this was not the first time he had left the kingdom. Even previously, when he had disagreements with his father, he went away to China. But somehow he was found out, and his elder brother Zarir, whom he had doubts on, he went to China. He promised Prince Gustavus, that I promise you, I will not claim my position to the throne. You will be the next king. You please come back to the kingdom. Father needs you, because Gustavus was brilliant, strong, powerful. He was a right kind of a prince whose presence was merely a kind of a threat for any enemy for the country. So if he was out of the country, it could have given enemies the chances to attack Iran. Zarir was equally powerful, but Zarir was humble at the same point of time. So he made a promise to his brother Gustas, saying that you please come back, I won't put my claim on the throne. And he was brought back to Iran. But second time when the quarrel erupted between the father and the son, this time Gustavus in the dark of the night sneaked away out of Iran, and nobody knew where he had gone and when he had left the palace. And he went to the kingdom of Rome this time, towards the west of Iran. This is the map you see. This was the Byzantine Empire of that point of time. So he went to Byzantium, that is Constantinople, which you see today. It was the seat of the powerful Roman Empire. But as he landed up in Rome, he changed his name to Farokgad, and he did not reveal his identity because he was sure that his father's spies would find him out and send him back to Iran. So he did not want to go back to Iran, and he started finding out work. He started searching for work, and he was desperate. No one was giving him work because whenever he approached someone for any kind of meager work, they saw him and you have a royal look. How could you work as a worker? How could you work as a scribe? This and that. So he was so much so desperate that he was not getting work, and that is why he was not able to eat food when he ran away to. And one day, the masters of the royal stable of the king of Rome saw him, and he appointed him to work in the royal stables. And this is how Gustavus finally found some work and finally found some place to live. And as the time went by, looking at Gustav for his qualities, his work, the master of the stable was very much impressed by him. And one day, the master of the stables received an invitation from the king of Rome. This is a representative picture. This is called the system of Swayamvar. Swayamvar was in India, but even in those days, in Rome and in other countries, the princesses, the daughters of the royal houses, particularly the warrior class.
Kerman, we just have a quick question. If you
Yes,
could go back 2 slides and just highlight on the map where exactly Iran was. So
yes, yes.
Iran was to the extreme right. I think I
Right.
read that as the Persian
Towards
Empire,
the
but
east of the Byzantium. Just give me a moment.
could you quickly show that? Thank you.
Yes, yes. See, Iran was towards this side. You see, you read Persian Empire at the corner of the map on the extreme right. So that is where Persian Empire was. Can you see my arrow? I'll just
So basically, he rode west and reached Rome
yes,
and Constantinople.
yes.
Okay. Okay. Let's get back to the Swayamvar. Everyone is excited for a wedding now. Lagannu season is coming up.
So this was the system by which the royal princes, the daughters of the royal houses, particularly the warriors, were allowed to select their husbands from among the different princes of the different kingdoms. And this was the time when the royal stable master took Gustas to the royal court to attend this royal wedding. And Princess Katabunda, eldest daughter of the King of Rome, entered the hall, and she was going around with a crown in her head, in her hand, to select the bride for herself, to select the right suitor for her, if I would say, a husband for her. And she moved around from the whole royal gallery. She could not find anybody suitable for her, and all of a sudden her eyes went and spotted a young handsome man sitting in a common people's row, and that was Gustasp. Gustasp had not revealed his identity. He used to conceal his identity by being a commoner. He did not identify himself as a prince because he had the fear that his father would call him back to Iran. So, but Katabun fell for Gustaspa, and she put the crown on the head of Gustaspa, and finally they were married. But when the king of Rome came to know that his daughter had selected a commoner and not someone from the royal princes, he was very angry at his daughter, and he threw them out of the palace as a punishment. With the passage of time, the king realized that he had two more daughters to be married. So this time he put a very strict condition. He said to two other princesses that if you have to marry, you will have to marry someone from the royal family. And if you don't follow my orders, you will be executed. So he put for his second daughter. When the princes approached him, he put a condition that there was a monstrous animal in the hills of Rome. It was basically something like a dragon with a wolf head sort of a thing, as described in Shahnameh. So he said that whosoever kills that dragon and brings his tooth and skin, one teeth and skin, as an proof that he has killed him, I'll give my daughter in marriage to that person. So the second person who wanted the prince who wanted to marry the second princess approached Gustaspa and requested him that if you could help me in killing the Azda. So when they went to the mountains and when they saw the beast, the Romans had never seen such a beast, but Gustaspa knew that this kind of Azda, this beast, existed in Iran, and this Pahlwans used to frequently kill this kind of monsters. So he said, "This is Azda, and we fight them regularly in Iran, and we kill them." So This is Gustaspa killing the Azda. He kills the Azda for the second suitor on behalf of the second suitor, takes the teeth and the skin, gives it to that second prince who wants to marry the second princess. He takes it to the court and they get married. The same way, when it came to the marriage of the third princess, the same story repeated. The third prince also came to Gustas for the help because he had learned from the second prince that he had not killed. It was Gustas who had killed that monster. But this time the king was adamant. He said, I want the whole monster to be brought on the cart to my palace. I want to see how the monster looks. So this time again they go to the another mountain. They kill the Azda and the Azda is brought to the court in the cart. The king is very happy. The third daughter is also married. But this killing of Azda had made some kind of a negative impact on Gustaspa. In his dreams, he used to get the nightmares about Azda. So 2-3 days this thing followed, and Gustaspa had not revealed this secret to his wife Katabun, that it was he who had killed the monster and not those princes. So when Katabun asked him that what are the nightmares you are getting? Why are you so afraid? So then he revealed the secret. He said that it was I who had actually killed the both those two Azdas instead of those princes, and uh, it, I feel I'm getting the nightmares of the Azda. So the queen finally somehow was able to calm down Gustas. But then he requested Gustas that if you are so strong, if you are so capable, why don't you go and meet the king? He may take you in his service. He'll be much more delightful to have a son-in-law, such a strong and powerful son-in-law, rather than those cowards who had not done it by themselves, and you had done it on their behalf. So Gustaspa goes and meets the king. When king comes to know about his bravery, his acts of bravery, king appoints him as his commander. Now, with Gustaspa on his side, the Roman king becomes strong. He now starts attacking all his enemies. And it happens that way that one of the governors of the Roman king was not paying him the tax. Instead, he was defying him. He was defying him in the battlefield. So he sends Gustaspa with an army, and Gustaspa wipes out that whole army. And looking at that, the Roman king feels more powerful. He said, now I am powerful enough to even challenge the Persian Empire. And so he sends a letter to King Loraspa that you please pay us the tax now, otherwise my army will attack Iran. And the messenger, the royal messenger who goes to Iran, to the court of King Gustaspa, gives him the message. And King Gustaspa is all of a sudden taken aback that the king who had feared the Persian armies is challenging the Persian army. So he asks the messenger that what is it that all of a sudden that the king of Rome has become so powerful. So he looks around he describes that there is a new young warrior who has joined the ranks of the Roman army, and he is very powerful. And as he is talking around, his eyes fall on Zarir, who was standing beside the king, and he says that this warrior looks exactly like your prince Zarir. And that is where Loraspa realizes that this should be Gustas, nobody else. So he sends the message back to the king of Rome that we are ready for the war and I am sending my son with an army to fight you. When Prince Zarir goes to the court of Roman king and he sees Gustaspa, he immediately recognizes this is my brother Gustaspa. Finally, they were happy that the search for their prince had ended. They were desperate in Iran, searching around for Gustas, where he had gone. All these years, they were not able to trace him. And one fine day, their luck shines. And it is said that the bright star always shines, however dark the sky is. And this was same with the case with Gustaspa. However, Gustaspa tried to hide his identity somehow or the other because of his acts of bravery, his acts of greatness. He shined, and that is where Loraspa also realized that it was his son, nobody else, because of whom the Roman king had become so powerful. And Finally, Zarir meets his brother. He convinces him to come back. Gustaspar comes back to Iran and he is crowned the new king. And King Loraspar retires to his spiritual journey.
So, Kerman,
Yes.
nice description. I'm wondering what Nemo is going to tell us about what's coming up next. But just a quick reminder, there were three princesses of the Roman Empire. The eldest Katabun got married to Gustaspar, and thereafter the two younger sons were given tasks which they did perform themselves, and they relied on Prince Gustaspar to slay the two Astas as proof, and that remained a secret for quite some time. But then Gustaspar started getting nightmares, and then eventually Katabun convinced him to go to the court of the king and asked him to join his service as well. The king was really impressed by his might, and all of a sudden they decided to challenge the mighty Iranian Empire. And all in all, in the process, the truth couldn't be hidden for too long. Eventually, the father and the two brothers get reunited.
So
Is there
finally,
anything
Nemo says it's finally a happy moment for Loraspar and Vistaspa.
lovely? I love happy endings.
So now this opens up a next chapter in the history for us. This is now Gustaspar is crowned as the king. And this photo is of a very much importance when it comes to the relationship of father and son. King Gustaspar became the king of Persia, and his son Prince Aspandyar. He had two sons, Prince Aspandyar and Prince Peshotan. Okay, so Aspandyar was the one who was very powerful. And when Zarathustra had come to the court of King Gustaspar, he did a jashan, and after the jashan ceremony, he gave different blessings, or you could say boon, to different people in the court. And one boon among them was given to Prince Aspandyar. With the he blessed Prince Aspandyar with an invisible cloak of armor, which was so powerful that no weapon could pierce it. But and Aspandyar was happy to accept that, and he promised Zarathustra that he will become an instrument, he will become instrumental, or he will become an instrument for God to spread the Zarathustra religion in their kingdom and beyond. And that is how Aspandyar embarked on his mission to spread the word of Zarathustra across the kingdom and beyond his kingdom. Other one thing which Aspandyar had promised to Zarathustra was, he said that I promise that I will always obey my father. His word will be an command for me, and I will always follow it to the T, whatsoever the consequences are. And this is where the things turn around for Aspandyar. We in the story of Zarathustra, we had learned that the black magicians in the court of Gustaspar they had asked the king that Zarathustra was a black magician, and Zarathustra was a black magician, and king easily believed it. But later on, with the incident of Aspasia, king readily accepted Zarathustra, and he realized this mistake. King Gustaspar basically had one weakness. He was a person of feeble, you can say, kacha kanno manato. Any trustworthy person would come and say to him anything, and he would believe. And secondly, as I said, his hunger for power was too much. He did not want to leave his throne easily, which was very much evident from his behavior with his father. And the same thing was to repeat when it comes to Prince Aspandyar. Prince Aspandyar became powerful. He went around and spread the religion in his kingdom, beyond his kingdom. When he returned back, the king of Turan, Arjaspar, he was grandson of Afrasiab. He came to know that this is the representative picture of Aspandyar. Okay, he came to know that Gustaspar Pasha had accepted Zoroastrian religion and he was spreading Zoroastrian. So he asked Gustaspar Pasha not to do that, or else he will attack Iran, and he attacks Iran. And when he attacks Iran, the war, Iran wins the war, but the war is costly on Iran because many important warriors like Prince Zarir and other members of the royal family are lost in this war. They are killed in this war. But it is Asfandyar who comes to the rescue, and finally Arjaspa has to run away. After the victory, Prince Asfandyar approaches his father and says that you now please crown me as the new king. King Gustavus becomes very about this, that he is still young and he is asking for him to be for the throne. He somehow sends him out to some other mission where he is successful, military mission. And when the news of his success reaches the palace, one of the courtiers again goes and he misleads Gustavus by saying, "See, now he's becoming more and more powerful. He's gaining more and more victories. He will be a threat to your throne. You imprison him." So what King Gustavus does is he sends a letter with Jamaspa Habub, his prime minister, to ask Asfandyar to come back to the court. The moment Asfandyar is back into the court, he is put in chains and imprisoned in some dungeon on the hills. Asfandyar feels very bad about it, that even after following the command of his father, he has been mistreated. But he had promised Zarathustra that he will always obey his father and never defy him, and that is why he accepts those mistreatment, and he accepts to be chained and set into the prison. Knowing this, Arjaspa sees that this is a good chance because now Asfandyar is in the prison. There is no one who could defeat him. He again attacks Iran, and this time Iran pays heavily for this. The king Gustavus has to go into hiding. He is very badly defeated, and Jamaspa Habub this time requests the king that you please realize the gravity of the situation and you please release Asfandyar because he is the only one who could bring back victory to Iran. And during this attack, what Arjaspa does is Arjaspa also captures the sisters of Asfandyar, the princesses, and takes them to Turan and imprisons them in his fort at the fort of Raindus. And the fort of Raindus was a very powerful fort, heavily guarded and everything. So it was not possible for the army to attack them. Gustavus realizes his mistake. He sends Jamaspa and the blacksmiths to go and break the chain of Asfandyar. The blacksmiths are not able to break the chain. The chain are so heavy. So Asfandyar tells them to step aside, and he himself breaks the chain with his own strength. Looking at that, Jamaspa is amazed. He says, if you were able to break the chains by yourself, why did not you break it at that point of time when an injustice was done to you? Asfandyar says, I have promised Zarathustra that I will always obey my father. I will never defy him. And that is why I accepted these chains. These chains are nothing for me. I could have broken them easily even at that point of time. But it was my father's command and orders that I had to follow, so I respected it. And Asfandyar goes to the war. He is successful, and he is successful in capturing the Turanian commander. He takes him alive and keeps him as a prisoner. Now, his next mission was to rescue his sisters from Arjaspa's captivity. So he asks the commander that there must be some weak point in that fort of Raindus. You tell me what it is. I will use that weak point and attack Raindus. So the commander now spills out the secrets. He said there is a secret route to the fort, and this is the time when if you had remember, we had talked about Rustam's Hafta Khan when he had to reach Mazandaran. Same way, this time Asfandyar has to go through a Hafta Khan, a journey of 7 places, which is filled with dangerous enemies, magicians, witches and everything to reach that fort. But he has this commander with him who guides him through and through. In his last 7th Hafta Khan, the commander realizes that if Aspandyar is successful in breaching the fort, he will kill me also. So he misleads Aspandyar, saying that from here ahead there is a desert and there is a small saltwater lake. So you rest here and then we move forward. But the next day, when the army starts marching, all of a sudden, Aspandyar is at the back of his army and he realizes that army is vanishing on the horizon. And he realizes that actually there was not a salt lake, it was a sea. And this commander had lied to him. So he calls the commander and asks him, "Why did you lie to me?" He said, "I had the fears that once my job is done to lead you to Rhine, you will kill me." Aspandyar says, "Anyways, you had lied to me. I am angry. I am going to punish you. Now you please tell me the truth. Which is the how do we breach that fort?" So he says there is a secret route to reach the fort, and once you are inside the fort, you will be easily able to know the secrets of the fort and breach it or attack the fort. So what Aspandyar does is he reaches the fort, but he changes his garb. He becomes a trader. He becomes a trader. He changes his disguise. He's now in disguise. Because if Ajaspa knows that Aspandyar is directly coming to attack, he will have to face the attack and he won't be able to enter the fort. His priority was to save his sisters. So what he does is he disguises himself as a trader, carries lot of gold coins, jewelries, and everything. He's welcomed into the fort. He stays there. He gives good gifts to the king Arjaspa. King Arjaspa is very happy about him. He requests that he wants all the royal officers of Arjaspa, all the soldiers to come and have a feast. So he organizes for a feast. At the same time, he plans the attack in 2 or 3 stages. The first stage was to enter the fort. The second stage, his brother Peshotan was hiding with the army in the jungles around the fort. So he asks Peshotan that I will give you a fire signal, I will lit the fire, and when you see the fire at night, you attack the fort. Because I will be already inside the fort and I will open the gates for you. So as per the plan, the things work. Somehow the sisters of Aspandyar comes and meet him at his shop. Aspandyar sees him, but Aspandyar doesn't reveal his identity. He tells them to go back to their captivity and everything. This and everything is done. Then at night, as planned, the feast is organized. And on the wall of the forts, Aspandyar lights the fire. And the boxes which he had brought in of this trade, in many of those boxes, there were Iranian soldiers who were hidden inside the box. So all those boxes are opened up and those soldiers are brought out. And all of a sudden, as per the signal, the Iranian army attacks the fort. The sentry on the guarding the fort realizes that there is an attack and they raise an alarm. But it's too late because the officers who were in the feast were already drunk and gone to sleep. So there was no one to command them properly. Only 2 commanders were left, but they are killed by Peshotan. Arjaspa realizes that this is some ploy by Aspandyar, some plan by Aspandyar to kill me. So he goes to fight Aspandyar. And he is killed. Here you can see in the image, Aspandyar is on Arjaspa and he is beheaded after a fight. And finally, the queen, both the princes, his sisters are rescued and brought back to Iran. And as per the promise, Aspandyar asks his father that you had promised me that if I successfully bring my sisters back, you will give me the throne. So again, Gustaspa is afraid. He said, I don't want to give the throne. So he summons Jamaspa, and Jamaspa was given with the boon of seeing the future. He said, what is the future of my son Aspandyar? He says he will die young. He won't be able to rule Iran and he will die at the hands of Rustam himself. So now Gustaspa plans to send Aspandyar to Rustam. He says, I give you one more task. This is your final task before I appoint you as the king. You go and bring Rustam in chains to the court. and we had already heard this story about Rustam and Aspandyar. Aspandyar is his Ketayun or Katabun, the mother of Aspandyar, explains him that it is impossible. Jamas Habub explains him it is impossible to chain and bring Rustam. You are inviting your own death. But as Aspandyar says, my father's word is my command, and he goes and he is killed in the battle. And we have it's a different this thing, and we have already done this in our first Saname session of Rustam and Aspandyar. Aspandyar's weakness was his eyes, and after 3 days of fight, finally Shimurk reveals to Rustam that if you shoot Aspandyar in his eyes with a forked arrow, you will be successful. And finally, Rustam does that. And it is not that Rustam wants to kill him. Rustam tries to make Aspandyar understand that he is making a big mistake. Because he said, I am Rustam Pelwan. It's not easy to chain me and take there. Even if you defeat me, I will better die in the battle rather than surrender to you. Aspandyar doesn't listen to Rustam. And finally, he meets his fate. And the bright future of or the next king is lost in this process. Gustavus, you can see a forked arrow here in Aspandyar's eyes. This was his weak point. Okay, it was his Achilles heel, as we say, and he is finally killed. And this brings to end great Kayanian dynasty, because next king who followed Aspandyar, his son Baman, or even Dara or Dorab, the history is not clear about that. Somewhere there is a confusion in the Shahnameh, so we don't have a clear picture based on who really followed whom, how the dynasty ended. But the last powerful king, as per the Shahnameh, and for Kayanian dynasty, our source is just Shahnameh. Okay, it's not anything, no other sources we have basically. So based on that source, there is some confusion with this. So Ustaspa being the last powerful king of the Kayanian dynasty slowly, gradually, the power declines, and the Kayanian dynasty comes to an end, giving way to the Parthian dynasty. Okay, so I end my presentation here. Any questions?
So Kirban, just some comments basis what you just spoke about. It was the hunger for power that brought about the downfall of such a mighty empire.
Yes. See, the lessons that we learn from Kayanian dynasty is that when you are in the position of leadership as a king, as a head of the house, as a head of your class, whatever it is, whatever role we are in, we should be humble, because the power does not come from the position. The power comes from the people you rule, the people who help you around. If Gustavus, see, there are ifs and buts in history, and these ifs and buts always make history interesting and learning, and they give us good lessons. If Gustavus would have realized the potential of Aspandyar and not led him to his death by sending him to Rustam, maybe Kayanian dynasty would have survived few more years. Maybe we would have had much more powerful and better kingdom, because Aspandyar was a devout Zoroastrian. He had taken a vow to spread Zoroastrianism around and to protect the religion from any kind of attacks. So if you would just imagine, as a prince, if he was so powerful, and not only powerful, he was also very thoughtful.